Imagine a world where one injection could reduce your risk of heart attack, stroke, and even death from cardiovascular disease. Now, imagine that same shot also helps manage diabetes, curbs appetite, reduces body weight, and may even cool down chronic inflammation. Sounds like science fiction, right? Wrong. Welcome to the world of GLP-1 receptor agonists. Once celebrated purely as a diabetes drug, these medications are now becoming cardiovascular superstars. Cardiologists everywhere are taking notice, and today we're diving into why. What are GLP-1 drugs really? GLP-1, or glucagon-like peptide 1, is a hormone your body naturally produces in response to eating. It stimulates insulin secretion, suppresses glucagon release, slows gastric emptying, and reduces appetite. Scientists figured out how to mimic this hormone, and voila, we got semaglutide, which is Ozempic and Wegovy, and Trulicity. They entered the scene for blood sugar control. But as these drugs went through clinical trials, researchers began to notice something remarkable. Patients on GLP-1s weren't just controlling diabetes, they were dying less often from heart disease. The heart disease epidemic. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer globally. Heart attacks, strokes, and congestive heart failure claim millions of lives every year. For people with type 2 diabetes, the risk is even higher. Nearly 70% of people with diabetes will die from some form of heart disease. Traditional therapies focus on controlling blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose, but they didn't fully address the complex nature of cardiovascular risk. That's where GLP-1s came in, offering a multifaceted approach. Landmark trials that have changed everything. Several pivotal clinical trials shifted the GLP-1 narrative from glucose control to heart protection. Leader trial showed 13% reduction in major adverse cardiovascular events, like MACE. Sustain 6, semaglutide, reported 26% reduction in non-fatal stroke. Rewind, dulaglutide, demonstrated cardiovascular benefits even in people without established heart disease. These studies weren't just statistically significant, they were clinically meaningful. The LEADER trial in particular made liraglutide the first GLP-1 to receive FDA approval for reducing MACE, a composite endpoint of cardiovascular death, non-fatal myocardial infarction, and non-fatal stroke. Semaglutide followed. The implication? They aren't just diabetes drugs anymore. Mechanisms behind the magic. How exactly do GLP-1s help the heart? Let's break it down. Weight loss. Less body fat means reduced strain on the heart. Blood pressure reduction. Many patients on GLP-1s see a modest but meaningful drop in blood pressure. Improved lipid profile, decreases in LDL cholesterol and triglycerides. Anti-inflammatory effects. GLP-1s may reduce systemic inflammation, a known contributor to arteriosclerosis. Endothelial function. They help the lining of the blood vessels work better. Glycemic control, reducing glucose Reducing glucose variability and chronic hypoglycemia further protects the heart. Cardiologists changed their tune. At first, cardiologists were cautious. GLP-1s were seen as the domain of endocrinologists, but now many top heart doctors are not only prescribing GLP-1s, they're advocating for them. Why? Because these drugs hit multiple cardiovascular risk factors in one go. They're also safe, with low hypoglycemic risk. And when you can lower MACE in both primary and secondary prevention, that's a game changer. Professional organizations like the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association now recommend GLP-1s in their joint guidelines for patients with diabetes and are at a high risk of cardiovascular disease. Real-world evidence. Clinical trials are gold, but what about real-world? Observational studies and insurance claims data confirms the benefits. Lower hospital rates for heart failure, fewer strokes and heart attacks, reduced all-cause mortality. In one study, GLP-1 users had a 40% lower risk of hospitalization for heart failure compared to non-users. Another analysis from a national claims database shows that semaglutide users had significant fewer emergency room visits for cardiovascular events. Anti-inflammatory bonus. One of the most exciting new frontiers, inflammation. Chronic inflammation plays a central role in cardiovascular disease. Recent studies suggest that GLP-1s may act like an anti-inflammatory agent, lowering levels of C-reactive protein, reducing oxidant stress, modulating immune cell activity. Some researchers now speculate that this anti-inflammatory benefit could extend to other diseases, including kidney disease, liver disease, and even Alzheimer's. The future of GLP-1 in cardiology. The momentum is building. Pharma companies are testing new formulations and combination drugs like GLP-1 GIP co-agonists, like tirzepatide, and GLP-1 glucagon co-agonist. These could offer even more potential cardiovascular protection. Trials like SURPASS and SELECT are setting the stage for new FDA approval specifically for heart disease, not just diabetes. Imagine where your cardiologist's first prescription isn't for a statin, it's for a GLP-1. It's not only possible, it's probable. Patient stories in clinical practice. Let's bring this home in with real people. A 62-year-old type 2 diabetic with a previous heart attack sees dramatic improvements in cholesterol, weight, and glucose after starting liraglutide. A 55-year-old with no diabetes but high cardiovascular risk starts semaglutide and loses 25 pounds, lowers blood pressure, improves his lipid profile without needing insulin or other glucose meds. Doctors are seeing this every day. Cardiologists are holding back fewer referrals to endocrinologists and initiating GLP-1 therapies themselves. Challenges and cautions. Of course, no drug is perfect. GLP-1s can cause side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, possible risk of pancreatitis, the high cost and insurance hurdles, And while the data is strong, we still need long-term studies in non-diabetic population. But the benefit to risk ratio is very promising. Patients and doctors alike are weighing in, and for many, the benefits clearly outweigh the drawbacks. Why cardiologists are all in. So, why are cardiologists all in on GLP-1s? Because they're not just treating blood sugar anymore. They're fighting heart disease on multiple fronts, from weight loss to inflammation and cholesterol, all the way to blood pressure. The data is there. These patients are responding, and the future of cardiologists might just lie in a diabetes drug unexpected second act. If you or someone you love is living with heart disease or type 2 diabetes, this class of medication could be a game changer. Talk to your doctor and stay tuned. The revolution in heart health is just getting started. If you found this video information useful and informative, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and share it with somebody who needs to hear it. We've got more deep dives into game-changing sciences coming up, so hit that bell icon and stay in the loop. This is your health, your future, and we're here to break it all down. Thanks for watching. See you next time.